My, how time flies. Okay, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order for the Raymore City Council work session for Monday, May the 18th. We have a couple of items on our agenda tonight. First one being the Raymore Municipal Court recovery and reopening details. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Fearborn. Guess not.
I have a question. It's really more probably for Mr. Fearborn. It's related to the chief's comments. But as far as the virus and you know the numbers of the county, or what are we around 70 cases? Something like
74, yeah.
yeah, and they've, you know, obviously those have grown very slowly over the past couple of weeks. I've not seen any data on, and I don't know if you guys get this, on, we see the number and they just keep adding to the tally, but obviously some of those people have recovered. Do we know what the recovery rate is, or does the government just completely fall down on that and no way to track it? That's, yeah. Exactly.
Yes, to see right now, we had 11 reported cases, and we only have one active case right now. The other 10 have come off as being cleared. So,
That's good to hear. Thank you.
anyone else? Okay. Thanks, Chief. And the next item is the revenue review, or overview, I guess.
Now to municipal court. We have a huge backlog of cases. Municipal court is currently at 44.31% of budget. Revenues are down from the previous year, 33%. In 2019 through May, we had collected $217,458. And in 2020, we have collected $144,670. Obviously, municipal court was also kind of an outlier in that, I bet they can hear me now. I heard it click. Was kind of an outlier in that, for reasons unrelated to the virus, municipal court did not meet on 2 dockets before everything was shut down by the Supreme Court. So they're even farther behind. I have concerns that municipal court is not going to be able to get caught up before the end of the fiscal year. That we'll see the rebound and we'll eventually see the revenues that were associated with that. It's just, especially as the chief had indicated, if we were to stay at 1 and not be able to advance to 3 by those first dockets, it's really going to be a slow down mode. Also, people can just call in and say they're scared to come to court, and we have to continue those cases. So I see those cases getting continued. And then there's another anomaly that I'd kind of like the chief to talk about as far as self-initiated activity that she brought up earlier, with an increase in cases. That's okay. She'll probably remember. The chief had indicated that their officers are beginning an increase in self-initiated activity at this point. That's going to lead to more cases that are going to get backed up against that backlog that's already sitting in the municipal court. So again, we're going to see those pushed out further and further and further as we're not getting through cases. A lot of it is going to depend. The judge was very, very aggressive in saying that the 300 and some cases for that first docket, he was hoping through virtual cases to get down to about 50. That seems like it's going to be really tough to do. So again, that backlog within the municipal court will continue to increase. Miscellaneous, any questions on court? So court may be one of those that we don't see made up this year. We do see it made up in the next year, but we may not hit budget amounts there. So that it won't be a permanent loss, but in the near term. For miscellaneous revenue, which is just a hodgepodge of items: animal control revenue, dispatch fees, SRO services, police grants, emergency management grant, charges for copies, refunds and reimbursements, interest revenue, miscellaneous revenue, cash long and short, special district administration fees, and cell tower revenue. At 50% through the year, we are currently at 68.69% of budget, so doing very, very well. We are, however, because we had budgeted down for several of these items this year, compared to last year, we are down approximately $30,000, which is a 7.91% decrease from 2019 to 2020. And I had checked off one of these items because what I was looking at is revenues that we may be short on, either short on or not realize in this year compared to 2019, and because of the virus specifically. To one of those items, and now I'm going to call on the chief again, if she could talk about our SRO services.
Now I know what he's talking about. We have continued, our school resource officer, Lance Goddard, has continued to work with the school, and the school has, even though the children have not been attending, Lance continues to visit the schools, he continues to check on the buildings, and what the school district has done as part of our contract with them is they have continued to pay 2 days of his salary versus the entire amount that we're contracted with them to pay. So obviously, In the short term, the month of April, I think Mr. Fearborn and I talked about, where it will be reduced to those 2 days, and perhaps going forward, with no summer school and things like that, we may see a shortfall in that contracted amount. That contract will be coming before you all on June the 8th at the regular council meeting for renewal. And of course, much of Lance's increased activity throughout the summer and then in the fall will be dependent on the school district's decision for things like a later summer school, further into the summer and that sort of thing. But right now, they're still continuing to pay 2 days of the week.
Any questions on either of those, municipal court or the SRO services? Wonderful. I'd like to jump back up the sheet and go to sales tax. So we keep this, as the council knows, I have to be a little bit general here because we are not allowed to share individual sales tax numbers with you all. We're only allowed to share with the mayor, and we all have to sign off that we promise we'll never do that. But here is the sheet of all of our businesses, our retail businesses. To begin, U.S. retail and food services for April of 2020 saw a decrease of 16.4% from the previous month and 21.6% below April of 2019. Retail trade, that's retail trade and food services combined. Retail trade alone was down 15.1% from March of 2020, and the number you probably heard in the news, down 17.8% from the previous year. Clothing and clothing accessory stores were down 89.3% from 2019 for the month of April. That being said, obviously, retail sales and restaurant sales are taking a significant hit nationwide. For us in particular, I have taken all of these businesses and I have knocked them down into 6 categories. General, which would be the Walmarts, the Dollar Generals, et cetera. Pharmacy, hardware, gas, quick stores, grocery stores, and restaurants. To talk about each of these categories in turn, general was up 21.12% from the previous, and this is for the first 6 months of the year, was up 21.12%. In hard dollars, that amounts to $34,340. Pharmacy was up 1.47%. Hard dollars, that's only 136.19. Gas was down considerably. Gas was down 27.81% from the previous 6-month period, or from the same 6-month period in 2019. That's down $6,123.39. Grocery was up 0.86%. That's $787.18. That one shocked me a little bit. I thought it was going to be a little bit higher, but a lot of our grocery is not at traditional grocery stores. So because I included Sam's Club and Walmart in the general, that number would have been considerably higher as a percent. And then restaurant, and this is where things get kind of strange in the numbers. Restaurant was actually down for the period, but only 2.26% from last year's 6-month period, for 6 months. But the total dollars collected were actually up $4,914. So we only had one category that in hard dollars was actually down. The reason for this is, for the percentage being negative but the hard dollars being up, is the ones that took a huge hit but may not have been large dollar generators. And specifically, the first 2 victims of this particular virus, as far as businesses shutting down permanently, Mexico Viejo is closed, will be reopening hopefully in a couple of weeks under new ownership. They had not been paying sales tax for several months before all of the problems started, so we knew something was going wrong there. It would appear that Golden Corral will not come out of this, and we have significant concerns about China Star as well.
What was the percentage on hardware? You didn't cover that one.
Oh, excuse me. Hardware was up 15.28%, $2,616.27.
Thanks. Any questions, anybody? Comments? Mr. Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just curious on Golden Corral, that being a franchised entity, there's history prior to, not that you could probably disclose details, but was there indications prior to the COVID that there may be some challenges on the horizon for them?
Yes. Without giving any sort of detail, they would have suffered from the same challenges that McDonald's suffered from.
You know, most of the time through this COVID thing, that lot has been empty there at Golden Corral, but I saw 6 cars there today. It looks like they may try to either prep the inside for reopening under phase 2, or they're doing something. I didn't really get a chance to stop in and see what was going on, but there were cars there today, and I had not seen any there.
And the building is up for sale.
Yeah, I did see that it was had a for sale sign.
Did you give us you gave us the breakdown of 6, did you give us the overall tax? You did, I missed it, I'm sorry.
Hold on just a second. Let me, so what this represents, sales tax and everything else, overall, we are at, we are down minuscule from the same 6-month period. We are at $5,549,522 in this year. That's 0.25% less. It is less than $10,000 from the same period last year. We are at 65.60% of the overall general fund revenue budget of $8,459,945. We are doing, through this month, we are doing as well as we possibly could. We are positioned very, very well right now. Before the end of the year, there will be another series of fees and permits associated with the remainder of the loss. They're thinking that they're going to really be moving fast and have an entire second round of that as we come into the fall, where they'll be pulling the permits so that they can be doing some new units as well. So that will probably further accelerate this.
Yes, Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I have you repeat the percentage on hardware again?
Certainly.
I was writing and didn't get it.
It increased, it saw an increase of 15.28%, which is $2,616.27.
Yes, Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Assuming that the worst is behind us and we continue opening up and continuing the year, what's your gut feeling as far as how we're going to end the year? I mean, do you see it potentially going to be, like you said, it's as good as can be expected, but do you see it maybe a better year? Do you think it's going to be no better than it is right now, or what's your gut feeling?
I think we're going to see a slight realization of revenue over budget. Not as much as we have in past years, but we'll be over budget. That combined with, and of course, this is just the general fund. All of this is also reflected in all the capital funds that are associated with this, as well as the park sales tax fund. I believe that fees and permits will drive this very, very well for us and will offset any very, very slight decrease in the sales tax. But right now, with these sales tax numbers where they're at, and people are just, the people that are opening these restaurants are just, as they said, I heard the quote today, we're being slammed. I mean, they may only be open for a certain occupancy limit, but they're constantly using up that occupancy limit.
Yes, Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, based on what we're hearing tonight, the fiscal and staff, holding of things that we put in place, and we put in place a few months ago, are we going to continue those through the year? Is there going to be, are we going to open up the hiring again and raises? Is that still, through the budget year, we're going to leave those in place, or what's your thoughts on that?
The capital projects I'd like to keep in place for now, because that's a low-hanging fruit that's easy. They carry forward into the next year. They don't impact the budget. When the budget returns, the capital project is still there. You all know how the capital funds work. And they're larger dollar amounts that are impacted by the sales tax because some of them are out of the transportation fund. The first one to come back will be promotions and filling positions. And then would like to bring back, beyond that, anything that's personnel related. The second one that comes back then is professional development for the people and allowing them to travel again. And those were the two impactful personnel issues.
You have something, John?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Fairborn, thank you very much for that summary. Real quickly, with the city expenses, are we seeing any unexpected savings or any unexpected additional costs other than PPE? I mean, for example, are we saving some money on fuel possibly because fuel prices are low? Are we saving some money on not filling positions? What has this COVID thing done for us as a city, possibly saving some money in some places?
We have saved a considerable amount on gas. Obviously, with not filling positions, we've saved a considerable amount of money that will continue to be saved even when we bring those positions back, because a perfect example is one of our park supervisors here that we have not filled the position for. And when we do bring that person back on, if we open that back up, and I recommend that to you all in midsummer, then we've had the savings of the months to date. So those will all be realized. Our department heads, as they always do, because they're heroes, step up to the plate. Every single day they're walking in and going, is it okay if I do not spend on this right now? Which is not a question you normally get. We did put into place that anything over 1,000 still comes to me for my signature. Anything over 500, Mr. Icky has to review before I see those. Just to take some of the burden off of me, I gotta tell you, the $1,000 purchases are way down. I don't get those folders like I used to. The bane of the existence continues to be the purchasing card folders, and Ms. Quaddy walks those into my office usually sometime very early in the morning because the stack's about that high. Those are just the recurring costs, somebody going to the gas station. But the department heads I've been watching, the department heads have been scrutinizing those with a fine-tooth comb.
Anyone else? Did you want to give a legislative update at all? Because I can, I guess. So a couple of pieces of bad news. the Wayfair bill failed. That didn't make it through. It had been attached to an omnibus bill, and we had hoped that the legislature would look favorably upon that. They argued again over the impact of the bill on the state budget and how it would raise revenues, and they wanted that to be a revenue even thing, so they were going to reduce Missouri income tax. Nobody could get to the bottom of that one, so that failed. But the one bill that failed, which was a positive thing, was the cable franchise fees. As you know, I talked to you earlier in the year. Our own senator had tried to run a cable franchise tax reduction bill through, and it did not get the steam that he had hoped for, so it failed. So with that, that's a bit of positive news as well there. And there were a couple of other things that, of course, we didn't get failed to appear. Originally, we were trying to work on not so much getting failed to appear back as an actual charge, but trying to get back for the court the opportunity to suspend licenses for fails to appear in court, to draw those people to court, and that did not go through as well. So all in all, COVID helped and hurt us with regard to legislative matters, but at least the cable franchise tax reduction bill did not go through. Am I missing anything else, Jonathan, that legislatively, or no? Okay.
Those are definitely the significant ones, sir, that MML was paying very, very close attention to every single week. It was kind of interesting when I actually was talking to the legislative assistant for Senator Emery, and he had indicated that it was very, very strange because during the session, when they got shut down, they thought all these bills were going to go away. Basically, they were either going to get suspended or the sponsors were going to say, you know, let's wait till next year. It turned out that they tried to throw that entire truck at them, and for 2 days, it was just crazy down there. You couldn't get a hold of anybody. They were constantly in caucus, constantly in session.
Yeah.
I did have one more item, sir.
Yes.
Councilmember Berenson, to your question, kind of in reverse, maybe one of the only unknowns that we have in all of this is people's ability to go back out in the long term and spend money because they're either not employed or they're what is referred to as underemployed. Just to give you the Bureau of Labor Statistics number, at the end of April, that number was 20.5 million. That number now exceeds 30 million. There has never been a week, it's reported out each Thursday, there has never been a week since all of this started in the 6-week period that the unemployment number, well, last week was the lowest at 2.98 million filing for unemployment. The highest on record since that statistic was taken was actually in October of 1982, and it was $695,000, or 695,000 people in that year. So that shows you the significance of the unemployment numbers and what that has done to the economy. So however long it's kind of leveled out at the 3 million number. We keep hoping it'll come down week by week. Of more concern is the hard number of people who are underemployed, and that number is currently at 28.5 million people have either taken part-time employment because they can't be employed in their specialty in their area of expertise, and or they've just abandoned trying to find employment at all out of frustration. And that is a very, very high number. When you combine the two numbers, you're back up over a 30 million number when you combine that 3 million consistently that are still applying and this other underemployed number. That could impact us on consumer spending patterns for sure in the long run of this. Right now, The best economic statistics you're hearing is the end of 2021 for something that resembles recovery. And that's assuming we can stop the downward trend.
Well, on that high note, is there anything else?
That'll be about it, sir.
That'll be about it. Okay. Yes.
Do we have any update from Mr. Fletcher's office on the status of the August election and the potential for mail-in ballots sent to everybody? I know you had mentioned that to us before. I didn't figure you probably had anything, but I thought I'd bring it up.
We've heard nothing more than the June 2nd election is definitely a go. It will be here and at the rack, and those persons who have had their ballots changed have been notified. I know because I vote at Foxwood Springs and I've been notified.
Was it the Missouri legislature that authorized mail-in ballots if the clerk wished to do so? They were talking about adding on a notarization requirement?
And that's actually in place, but it's by clerk.
Anything else? Yes. Yeah. Nothing else?
We do have reason to go into executive session, sir.
Do you have anything under other?
No, sir.
Anyone else? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman,
I move that we move into executive session to discuss personnel issues as authorized by revised statute, State of Missouri 610.021 subsection 3.
thank you. There's a motion to move into executive session. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr.
I
Barber.
will second the motion.
Thank you, sir. Motion been made and seconded. Could I have the roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Delgado.
Yes.
Councilman Burke.
Yes.
Councilman Circo.
Yes.
Councilman Jacobson.
Yes.
Councilman Berenson.
Yes.
Councilman Townsend.
Yes.
Thank you. We're now moved into executive session.